and we ask them about their journey, their preparation, and how they do it. पर आज हमारे पास जो हस्ती है, she is AIR1, right? और बहुत सारे लोग बोलते हैं कि पढ़ाई करने के लिए कुछ सेक्रीफाइस करना पड़ता है, कुछ छोड़ देना पड़ता है, and there are so many things that people see. But today, the person whom I'm going to introduce you, she is well in her hobbies, playing guitar and cycling and many other things, right? So let us welcome Shreya Tibrewal. She's AIR1 in CA Inter. Welcome, Shreya. How are you?
Thank you for having me here. How are you, sir?
All fine. So share us about your journey. How was it? And
Okay, so I'll start from my CA foundation journey. So, after completing 12th, I started with my CA foundation prep, wherein there was a period of 6 months for preparing. After that, I gave my exams. I had secured 13th rank in that exam. So, after achieving that, I thought it is doable. Even the inter studies is doable, given that we properly schedule our studies and stick to it. So I put in my efforts for the next exam and secured first rank in inter. And then I joined my articleship in Deloitte M&A Tax department. So where the work revolves around due diligences and advisory structuring. And I've also given my CFA level 1 exam.
Good. Congratulations, right? So, Shreya, when did you start thinking about CA and how that decision came, and like if you can give some insight into that also.
Right. So actually, this was a very tough decision at the time so we have to decide a stream in 10th standard after 10th standard. So I was really very confused about what stream to take, apart from the fact that even in each stream, there are so many different lines we can do. So, but after giving into consideration many other facts, I had always been inspired by my father, who is also a chartered accountant.
Oh.
So somehow even I, it had in my genes maybe. So I decided to go for CA.
આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં એક કહેવત છે કે મોરના ઈંડાને ચિતરવા ના પડે, right? So you don't need to give it to someone who already have it in genes. Good. So tell us about your first of all, let's talk about your articles. If you said you are in Deloitte and you are into the merger and acquisition, right? So आज CA इंटर का भी रिजल्ट वैसे भी आने वाला है, right? So many students will be thinking about going to the articleship, taking their articleship and other things, right? So how did you take the decision, and what is your suggestions to all the students who are looking for articleship?
Right. So deciding the articleship which we want to take, we have to cover in a lot of aspects before we commit to a big four or maybe a mid-size firm. First, we need to consider what all factors are there which would affect our final studies and what all exposure we could get from the articleship itself. So, for example, if I take my journey, how did I decide to go to Deloitte and especially M&A Tax in that? Yes. The first priority was that I was confident that I would be able to, keep up with my classes and complete the studies which is required, even though I'll be required to work certain number of hours, which might be higher compared to the other firms. So I had that confidence and clarity in my mind. So that was a big push for me to join a big four. And in that, we have a lot of options, like there is audit, there is GST, there is tax, there is M&A tax. So in that, I did a game of elimination and chose M&A tax.
Okay. So like there is this myth going on, right? That when you go to like Big Four, they just put you in a department and they do not give you choice, and there's so many number of working hours. So do you want to comment something on that, or like how is your experience going on right now when you are into the Big Four?
So there are, like, all those statements do have truth in them, that we do have to stick to a segment or stick to one department for the entire articleship. But you know that from the date of your joining. So it is not that you are getting a new fact after you join. So if you have made your peace with it that you will be working in one department, then it is going to be fine. But however, in that department, it is not that you will be getting the same kind of work. You do
Okay.
have a lot of exposure, and there are a lot of clients, different kinds of engagements which we work upon. So your experience collectively over the 3 years would be varied amongst that department. And with regards the working hours, since you'll get an idea among the first few months that what will be your kind of working schedule, you can plan out your other things accordingly, and people are understanding.
Wow, that's a good insight, right? Many students will get help out of it. So, but say, like this whole podcast and other things we are planning is basically to make student understand कि रैंकर करते क्या है, मतलब खाते क्या है, वो पढ़ते कैसे है. So, what's your take on study plan and how you were specifically preparing, which helped you get the rank? And that's through AIR 1.
So if we talk about what I followed in CA intermediate examinations preparation, there were 3 things which I focused on. First was completing my classes and, completing them properly. Where I was to be attentive in a class and properly understand the concept and get it cleared by your teacher there and there is an essential while attending classes. Otherwise, attending classes would not do you good. Second part was, going through a first read and preparing notes along with our classes. And third was the last revision. And during the last revision, you have to, like the last subject-wise revisions, you have to write mock test papers, because that will help you gauge your preparation and, help what all mistakes you're making and improve on them further.
Okay. So basically you are suggesting 3 things: that when you are studying, totally focus on whatever the class is and whatever is happening in the class. Second, your first preparation and the notes. And finally, the last day revisions kind of thing. Right. So Shreya, what's your take on when it comes to like the day of exam? क्या करना चाहिए, कैसे करना चाहिए एग्जाम के दिन पे जो 3 घंटे 4 घंटे लास्ट के होते हैं? So how you were doing it and how would you suggest to many other students who are looking forward to learn from you?
Right. So you should have a detailed plan already for the last day preparation, which should be planned out in the 9 months of study period which we have. So like if we take for the practical subjects first, in practical subjects, what I did was I used to make a small summary notebook even for the practical subjects. I used to write down all the formulas or formats, whichever is required, and a few like certain in accounts, there are certain questions where there are certain adjustments, and only that point is tricky. The entire question is standard question. So instead of going through the entire question, if I've already pointed out that this is the adjustment which I am facing trouble with, or this is thoda tricky, I can just note it down in my notebook and write below ki this is how it should be done. So make a concise notebook even for practical subjects. That is very essential. And mark few wholesome questions in all the chapters, that if you do this question, you'll get an idea of how to solve a question for suppose departmental revenue or something like that. So that is how you prepare for the last day studies. You should have a book of summary plus the questions you want to practice one day before, priorly marked. You should not be figuring out what should I practice a day before. And for the theory subjects, there are 2 approaches which we can follow, which is completely dependent upon how you study, how one studies, and how one has been practicing till now. One is preparing notes, an entire note summary. But in that, I'd recommend that we do not prepare just an overview chart. However, we prepare concise, full notes, so that even if you refer your notes, you'll get enough content for your exam itself. And the second way to do could be to highlight and mark it in the textbook itself, so that you only read the highlighted points.
Perfect. Very good. Very good. So what you're suggesting is that you must have some of the concise note which you can refer on a last day, and you must have some summary words or some noting down which can help you at the last day, right? So जब ये summary points note down करते हैं, तो is there any tips that you followed or like which you can give to the students कि कैसे, क्योंकि बहुत सारे theory subject होते हैं तो student का यही होता है कि क्या tick mark करे या तो कैसे notes बनाए. So how you were making the notes? Like what was your strategy in that?
So the first chapter you sit with, it is very difficult to understand what is important from exams perspective and what should you include in your summary notes. So what I'd suggest, when you pick up a subject, try to read through and understand the first chapter. Don't make notes, just understand the chapter, then maybe go through some questions, RTPs, MTPs may say, and then you'll get a certain idea what is important, how, what all things do we need to memorize, and what all things we just need to understand. Okay. So accordingly, then you can go back, and after you do this exercise for 1-2 chapters, then you can, start highlighting from reading point itself. You don't have to do double reading to highlight the points.
Okay, so what you are suggesting is कि पहले trial base पे 1-2 chapter करो, and then you will get master out of it over a period of time. Wow, super. So Shreya, now we have a very small round where we'll talk about underrated, overrated, right? So I'll give you one statement, and you have to tell me, according to you, is it underrated or overrated, right? Right. So the very first statement is taking coaching for all the subjects.
Overrated.
So what do you suggest?
So this also gets to the personality of the person. If you are someone who is completely dependent on getting the classes schedule, then maybe it's helpful for you. Otherwise, in most cases, there will be few subjects which do not require coaching, which are self-explanatory, and you can do it on your own.
Perfect.
Is what I believe.
Perfect. Second is self-prepared notes. आपने अभी बोला वैसे, but still self-prepared notes.
This is very underrated. People try to take notes from people who have passed out, but the preparing your own notes has another benefit. It is kind of 2-3 revisions in one go for that person itself.
So you means कि notes तो बनाना ही चाहिए. That's very good. Third is solving the mock test paper or writing the test papers.
So that is underrated. Many a times, some students have come and asked me कि I am not able to clear my exam. What would you recommend? So generally what I find is that people are not, they're so scared of writing paper. They don't write a mock test before giving your actual exams. So the actual exam is the first paper which they are writing. And that is a very disastrous position. You should write a paper. Don't get afraid of writing paper. It will only help you improve.
Okay. And when we talk about you, like how many papers you had written, or like how you were doing it?
So I had written an approx of 2-3 papers for each subject.
Oh, so that's what you suggest to students, you should write 2-3 papers?
So I'd suggest at least one set of papers is minimum mandatorily necessary. Otherwise, then it depends upon what the circumstances are in your case.
And reading study material.
Very, very important. So underrated right now. People should not refer to other authors. Since the exam is conducted by ICI, how can you neglect the material which ICI is giving?
So you studied everything from study material, institute study material?
Yes, so I covered the entire institute material. Other than that, I used to practice questions from my coaching classes material. But covering ICI material was my first priority.
So that's a very underrated, right? I also see so many students not doing institute study material.
Right.
So what's your message to them?
Please study from ICI material.
Wow.
It is...
Yes, please.
No, please.
And last is sleep.
So it is very underrated. I used to sleep 8 to 9 hours a day, I think.
Is it?
Yes.
Superb.
So don't compromise.
Still you manage.
Right.
So what are you suggesting? कि नींद तो लेनी चाहिए, शांति से सो जाओ, ऐसा?
हाँ, मतलब maybe you can cut down from 9 hours. It is not really required. So 7 hours is a must. And if you are habituated to getting some amount of sleep, don't just, randomly reduce your numbers of sleep, because that will affect your efficiency during the day. You're not really helping or saving any hours at the end.
Good, very good insight. So Shreya, I just heard that you are having certain hobbies and you are following it throughout your inter thing also. So many students keep on asking me also and would like to know from you also that how do you manage apart from study, or were you managing it, or like how you were doing it when it comes to hobby and other things?
Right. So like hobby by definition is something you really like and you get an escape from your current thing, whichever you are doing. So for like during inter preparations, we had to study the main aim for the day was to study. So when you get, too tired by studying, and if you can just go and do whatever your hobby is, it really rejuvenates yourself, and you'll be happy at the end of the day. So that's why I try to put in some amount of time towards my passion.
तो कितना टाइम देते थे आप, मतलब एवरी डे व्हाट वाज योर शेड्यूल, लाइक काइंड ऑफ रीडिंग शेड्यूल कैसा होता था आपका?
So actually it shifted throughout, like it kept on thoda changing during the entire study period. However, I used to study during the day. I wasn't really a morning person and not really a night person too. So I used to study during the day, and at night I used to go and play badminton or do cycling. So,
wow, that's good to hear, right? So like, what do you suggest? I mean, like, May exam is also coming, right? Many students are preparing for the final, also preparing for the inter also, right? So what do you suggest them to have that consistency or continuity, like, or what are the tips that you would suggest them so that they can keep moving?
Right. So for maintaining the consistency, the main answer to that is taking breaks. It's sort of ironical, but taking short breaks, so that you don't get over stressed or overworked
or overwhelmed. Yeah.
Or overwhelmed, correct. Because you have to revise the same course, and that can be a little overwhelming towards the end when you have done through the course, and you still have to keep the momentum going until the exam so that you do not lose out on the study or the hard work which you've done before. So take short breaks, rejuvenate yourself, sit and study again.
Wow, super. And if you wanted to give some tips to the students appearing, what would be that one tip that you'll give? Ye to aise karo.
Okay. The one, it won't be one though. So the tips which I would like to give is, firstly, as we discussed earlier, to give at least one set of mock papers for all the papers. And second would be to assess your situation before you make your plans for the remaining study period which you have.
Okay, good. And Shreya, before we close or anything, I would like you to share your experience as a AIR1, because many students, it will motivate them when you will share how it goes, like how your life has changed maybe, or like what you experienced when you got the rank, kya hua, kaise hua, if you can share some part of that journey also.
So AIR1 has definitely been a highlight of my life till now. After getting AIR1, I've been given a lot of opportunities. So that is one of the best benefit which I could get out of doing hard work. And the secondly, my parents and my family and everyone is so proud of me. So that is,
father must be so proud, right?
Yes. So that feels like a huge achievement.
So what do you say? Is it all worth it or not?
It definitely is.
Wonderful. And one last question is, so like abhi March mein iska bhi result aa raha hai, like 12 students will also get results, right? So now when you are in the articleship also, so what do you think is a role of a CA, and how do you value this course to the fraternity? So those who want to, like, many students in 12th must be thinking whether to go for CA or not, or like, so what do you suggest them about CA?
So actually, CA course has now grown into a very, very versatile thing. It is not just the traditional roles which we have. It is acting as a catalyst to anything which you want to do. You can go into industry, you can take up audit, you can do tax, you can go into management consultancy, you can go into investment banking. So basically, it is a course which will help you pursue your passions and whatever you want to achieve. So I think that is,
everyone should go for a CA, right?
Given they have certain amount of interest in the subjects or the fields which we are talking about.
True. And what's your personal goals? Because you are also doing CFA. So what's in your mind? What are you planning?
So the immediate short-term goal is clearing CA final with good marks.
Again, a rank.
So my aim has always been achieving a set of marks, a target marks, which I want. rank I would obviously like to have a rank.
एंड फिर आप सीए पे भी कर रहे हो, तो फिर आप फाइनेंस में जाना चाहते हो कि अभी मर्जर एक्विजिशन टैक्सेशन फील्ड भी पूरा अलग है? सो बिकॉज आई एम आस्किंग दिस बिकॉज मेनी स्टूडेंट हैव दिस कंफ्यूजन कि क्या, तो व्हाट इज योर थॉट प्रोसेस इन दैट, व्हाट आर यू प्लानिंग?
So I'm really interested in finance field itself. So I wanted to keep my options open, and I looked through the CFA curriculum, and that seems to be very interesting. And I really got interested in the curriculum. So that's why I had enrolled and started with it.
So when you tomorrow will clear CFA also, so then what's the plan? Which I know you'll definitely do.
I think I am not very, very clear on what I want to like which industry or which field I want to go currently. However, finance, management, consultancy are the two industries or two work areas which I really look forward to.
Wow, good. So that was Shreya Tibrewal with us, right? She shared her whole journey, what it takes to get ranked, and she also shared many of the interesting facts about her life and her journey. So Shreya, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me.